All right, here we go. We are back. Episode 25 of the High Octane Dads podcast. We're going to get this thing rolling. We had planned on, sitting down and recording and banking some content up. And realistically, things are happening in the motorsports and automotive world pretty fast. And other than that, just life is happening pretty fast for us in general. And so we just wanted to get together. We're just going to start recording and get back at it. And we'll get some stuff banked up. But to be honest, I think we just had to get going again because my life is not going to slow down anytime soon. I don't think yours is either.
Nope.
But, we're here to do this thing. And, I figured let's just get rolling with it. What you think?
Well, I agree. Man, this thing's going to fall or something.
It would not be an episode of High Octane Dads podcast if something wasn't falling, breaking, or tipping over at your place.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I made some modifications over here to this little clamp I had, and I think my boom will hold on a little bit better than it has in the last few. So we'll see how this one goes.
I finally gave up. I've got the boom that I have is not awful. If I ever move it though, just the noise it generates is a lot. So I try to keep it steady, but it's got the plate so that, when you tighten the thing up on there, it kind of spreads the force out. I've had this desktop for so long, I said, screw it. And I just took that off. And so it's just kind of actually like screwed up into the bottom of the desk, but it doesn't move.
That's good.
I just said the heck with it. So now I think we're going to change the format up a little bit. One of the things that I always, since we started, wanted to kind of do is talk about some of the big automotive news, the things that's going on in the racing world and whatnot. And I think maybe we kind of start with that up front, get that stuff out of the way. And then we can talk about, that way we get into all of our chit chat. We don't forget to come back to it or run out of time.
Right.
What do you think?
That happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does. So I got a couple things on my list here. I don't know if you had anything, but this one's kind of a quick one, but I thought it was interesting. A few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I saw something come out. Summer Richardson was a top alcohol dragster racer with NHRA, and they pulled her title sponsorship. So shortly before the season starts, she had a 12 race schedule lined up, and they just pulled her because her title sponsor was OnlyFans. And apparently she's ran for 2 years, but, and she even released a statement. She's like, I get it why they did that.
Right.
She said, it just stinks that it's, right before the season. And, I was trying to look and see, I didn't get a whole lot of the backstory or whatnot. But again, I can certainly get the reasoning. I mean, hell, they pulled Winston, right? When I used to go to the Gator Nationals, it was the Winston NHRA, racing. Used to have the Winston Cup in NASCAR, and now, they don't do any type of cigarette promotion or anything like that. It's
right.
I get why they would have pulled it, but it just, it made some headlines that caught my eye for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I mean, that's pretty wild, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are sponsored by OnlyFans these days.
Definitely, at least their lifestyle. Right.
So,
yeah. But I thought that one was interesting. It was just kind of a headline that caught my eye.
Yeah.
The big thing in the automotive world for me right now. So I'm excited. NASCAR is starting back up. Let's go Trackhouse racing. Although I am kind of keeping an eye out. I think Austin Dillon might do something this year in the number 3 car. So that's pretty cool. Saw the Daytona 500 this past weekend, which was a lot of fun. But most everybody in our circle, when you talk about Daytona 500, knows that Cleetus McFarland made his ARCA race debut at Daytona this past weekend. And that was pretty cool to see.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've not really followed NASCAR for a very long time. I've never really just kept up with it, but just kind of from the feedback from people that I know that really follow it and what I have watched of it when I would watch it, it needs more excitement. And I believe that the man will bring the excitement, but we will see how it goes. I mean, I'm kind of curious on how much they will allow him to do, if they're going to do more, that they might add in a little bit of stuff where they kind of are showing more behind the scenes stuff in the pits. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah. So he's actually on probation for the entire season already.
Yeah, I saw that.
I figured you had seen that video, but what was interesting is because when he did his licensure test or whatever, when he's out there, whatever they call it, he had an in-car camera in his helmet. And that was one of the primary reasons, right? Is you can't record in there while they were doing that. But then they gave him some footage to use. So NASCAR is definitely playing ball and working with him. NASCAR and any of these motorsports organizations, like they have to get in with YouTube and these, these platforms that is where people are consuming content nowadays. I have YouTube TV. They can thank their subscription to NASCAR probably. And, and then college football, like those are the things, that's the only reasons I pay for YouTube TV, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, they really do have to embrace it. But I will say, like, the behind the scenes, one of Cleetus's videos I thought was interesting is when they were doing tech inspection for the ARCA race, like they were showing them pull the carburetor and like looking at the restrictor plates and like how small a diameter the holes are on those restrictor plates. Like they're literally
that was
cutting
pretty
it down
cool.
by about half. And so I do think for a lot of the fans who don't know as much about how NASCAR works, how the cars are set up, having somebody like Cleetus in there will be eye-opening, allow you to kind of see behind the scenes of it. And I think that will be good because, not everybody's going to go to the track every time there's a local race and pay for pit passes and all of that, which is one of the reasons I've always had a big love for the big NHRA events, like the Gator Nationals and whatnot, is when you can buy a general admission ticket. You can still go wander around the pits. You can watch them rebuild the engine in between passes and, tear everything down. And NASCAR is not like that, right? So you're not getting to the infield without having a ticket down there. So it'll be cool to see a lot of that, I think.
And I mean, just from the videos that I watched, like I said, I really haven't followed NASCAR for years. And I mean, I know they have a whole lot of restrictions and the way things are set up. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, wow, I was like, that thing, I mean, it really chokes it down. And I was like, man, I like to just have one of those engines. I mean, that'd be pretty sweet. But no, and like I showed him, like I saw where he was out there, camping out there in the field and playing games with the people out there. That was pretty cool.
One of the videos he said, he's like, we'll always camp in the infield with the people.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to be in the, over there with the drivers. I immediately, I looked at my wife, I was like, all right, he's racing at Talladega. We need to figure out how to get an RV between now and Talladega.
Yeah.
We can go hang out in the infield and then I can get George to rip some sleeves off my shirt. That'd be pretty sweet.
Man, you know what? I just saw one on Marketplace, not that expensive.
We've been looking. My wife's looking at campers.
Yeah.
My thing is, my truck being the 1500, the 530, I'm like, a $10,000 camper is going to turn into a $50,000 truck because my truck's not going to like, the places we're going to want to go, mountains, or like if I come to LS Fest, right? Like coming through those mountains with my car a couple years ago with no trailer brakes and that little 5.3 was sketchy enough, right? I'm not doing it with a camper. But I always like the idea of having just a little RV, just something enough, enough to sleep all of us, pull a little car behind it or something and just roll out.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about, I got that camper project at the end of last year, which I haven't touched yet, winter, but
it's on my list.
I've thought about that as well. Is just, I'd almost rather have like a little RV and, that way you don't have to worry about something to pull it. And there's more to it as far as you got to make sure all the other shit's squared away, like safety stuff.
Tires to worry about. You got tires on a camper, but another engine, another, everything to worry about, oil changes.
And that's the kind of shitty part about it. But I don't know. I mean, I kind of thought about that as well. I was like, I wouldn't mind just kind of getting a little bit older RV, and maybe not old, but like something that's not super new, but not like ancient. And, I think it'd be a good option. And it's easier to move around than having to try to hook it up and pull shit around.
My cousin was selling one several years ago, and he used to use it to go to NASCAR races. He raced Legends cars for a while, and then after he wasn't doing that, he just would go to the races and go in the infield, and he was selling the camper. And I kick myself every day for not buying it for what he was selling it for, because there's so much more now. The only downside is that once you get where you're going, you're parked, you're set up at camp, and you decide you want to go somewhere else, if you don't tow some sort of small car or something behind you, what do? You got to pack the whole thing up to leave, or you're just not going anywhere, right? Is your other option. But I mean, you get to the infield at the NASCAR race, like I'm there for the weekend. That's cool. And I've got a buddy that he would go up to the big race in Road Atlanta, and they'd camp out for the weekend. That would be a lot of fun. So there's a lot of, things you can do with them. And I really I kick it around every few years. But it's even cooler if, you might end up camped somewhere near Cleetus and George and all those guys. It'd be a lot of fun.
Well, like, honestly, I've thought about it before I've seen them pop up on Marketplace. Like, those little, I don't know if you had them down there, but they would come around with like a bookmobile to the schools every now and then.
Mm.
And it was like, kind of like, almost looks like a little shuttle bus. And it's like, I don't know, the back part of it
Was
behind
it
the
a really
cab is,
short one? They asked you to get on, they
no,
took you somewhere else.
but no, they'd have those. And I've seen them as like shuttle buses in like certain towns. Like the front of it's like a normal whatever truck. And then it's got like this weird little extra cab thing where you can actually stand up, walk around in like a little,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, man, I thought about if I could find one of those or like even an old school bus and just gut it.
So
But then that's,
I know a guy that did that.
yeah,
And he ended up selling it. He bought an RV and they liked it. Like, and it was super nice on the inside, but
right.
I worked with him and we were talking about that one day. I was like, man, that'd be a cool project. And he was like, it was a lot of fun. It was a cool project and you can make it exactly what you want. He goes, the one thing about doing that is it's a school bus and it will always ride like a school bus. And
Yeah.
you're just bouncing going down the road. And he said,
Yeah.
it wasn't comfortable to ride on the road in, but once you got where you were going,
It's
it
fine.
was super nice.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that makes sense.
But yeah, so Cleetus, race ended a little prematurely. I think they made it like 19 laps or something. He
Yeah.
had one wreck. He kind of dipped through, and then second one there was a little bit of contact, but he was still good. And then after that, he got wrecked out. And the two of the bigger ones, there's another racer, Amber or something, was involved.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. And apparently, like, people were really giving this girl like just the business on the internet. We're out there just and I gotta say, I like Cleetus. I think him and George and every time I've ran into James at LS Fest, right? Like, they're all great guys.
Yeah.
They've got some fans that are just beyond obnoxious, right? And these folks just were giving this girl, and Cleetus put a statement out. He's like, hey, guys, this is not like drag racing where you might make 100 passes and have one incident, right? Like, wrecks and stuff happen every single race in NASCAR and ARCA. That's just part of it. And you're going to have to accept that. He said, I'm going to wreck and I'm going to make mistakes and probably cause other people to wreck, and just to kind of cut her some slack. And I thought that was a, good, integrity move. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah, absolutely.
It's, it was still entertaining to watch. The Daytona 500 this year, it wasn't bad. Way more excitement watching like the in-car footage. Like, so that's what I liked about his videos. I think I messaged, I said, this is probably one of my favorite Cleetus McFarland videos he's ever put out, even though he's got a lot of great content, because I'm getting to see constantly in-car from this one car, like what's going on, and hear the spotter and all that. And I was like, man, this is a good content. It's the kind of stuff I like to watch. And it was good. I enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't watch the whole race. I did watch the Cleetus videos and some highlights that I've seen like on Facebook and different social media. But I mean, yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm excited for it. And I may even start watching more. Say, hey, look, it's working.
Well, and like for me, it was last year before, because I haven't watched it in years. And I enjoyed watching it as a kid because I was watching with granddad and watching it with dad. And I just made I was just like, I'm going to make a conscious effort to watch NASCAR this year and follow the points. And there's a documentary style thing on Netflix. So they did one for Formula One called Drive to Survive. And then they released one for NASCAR where they kind of like summarize the previous season. They show you any of the behind the scenes stuff and some of the drama. They talk to the crew chiefs, they talk to the drivers, they follow them, and ones who are kind of in the hunt for the championship. And it gives you, a unique perspective. You see some of their family lives and stuff too. But that was cool to watch. And I'm big. I love Formula One.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Cadillac is actually coming to Formula One either this year or 2026.
Hell yeah.
And so it's pretty cool to see. Like, it's always been McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes has dominated it, but the last few years it's been Red Bull has really been kicking ass. Max Verstappen, is just unstoppable right now. But and anytime you have a new manufacturer come in and trying to go for the Constructors' Cup and whatnot, like they don't always like come in and just do some stellar thing, right? It's a learning thing, and there's millions and millions of dollars in R&D that goes into it. But to see Cadillac step up and get into that, like, I'm pretty excited just to follow what they do in Formula One. But, I just made an effort to follow it, and I've been enjoying it. I try not to get caught up in the back in the day, they used to do it this way and they used to run 210 on the back stretch. You know, I'm just watching the race and enjoying it. It gives me something to do on Sunday. And, and like we went to the Atlanta race for my birthday last year, and that was a lot of fun. I took both my sons, and that was a lot of fun. At one point, my youngest fell asleep. I'm like, how are you asleep? I think it was during a caution, but still.
Yeah, either way, it's still loud.
We did have some ear protection on him, but the guy next to me, because I took my camera, I had my big 7200 lens and everything, and I had my crossbody strap that I carried because I thought I might walk down and take some. We ended up staying in our seats, but as I'm like pulling stuff out of my bag and putting the strap across me and hook, and before I pulled my camera out, he was like, and when I pulled the camera out, he goes, "Oh, thank God." I was like, "What?" He goes, "I don't know. I was just getting a little nervous. You was like pulling out some tactical gear. I didn't know what you were doing." I was like, "No, it's just a camera, dude." But no, we had a good time with that. And so Trump went to the Daytona 500, and they actually they did the with the pace car with the Beast out there on the track. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty wild.
He was at the Super Bowl. Why couldn't I come up with that? It's because it was less important than Daytona 500. But
yep.
Yeah, he was there too. So it's pretty interesting times.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
to say the least.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how a lot of things are getting ready to go. So speaking of that, what kind of projects you got going? Got any car stuff? Repairs or anything?
God,
anything
nothing
exciting?
Fun.
Anything exciting that's happened recently?
So I went and helped my mom get a new car. We found her. It's a little like Buick Envision. She's driving a little bit further to work now and stuff. So we got her into something a little bit newer, nicer, some more convenience features. But, she's got Dad's truck and she really just wasn't digging driving that every day. So we're trying to get it ready to sell, man. And found a buyer, and I made it about 6 miles from his house, and the dash went to blaring and going off saying no oil pressure, stop engine immediately. And I was pretty sure it was the sender. It wasn't ticking, wasn't running rough, wasn't acting crazy, but still I'm not going to deliver something I'm selling to somebody in that state. Yeah. So I brought it home. I tried to do the sender without pulling the intake because I've done it on that truck without pulling it before. But I remember the last time when me and Dad did it, as I tightened the sender down and put the connector on there, I went, man, if we ever have to take that off again, the way it's turned, it's going to be a pain.
Yeah.
And it was, and I couldn't, and I had to pull the intake, and I swapped it. And while I was there, kind of cleaned it up, shot back, cleaned it out. Then the heater core, I didn't even know the way the heater hose is connected. There's like this adapter that pops over the, the outlet on the heater core, and then the hose goes onto that. But then it's like the end of it was like, I had to buy a Dorman, replacement for that end, and then, just cut it and put a hose clamp on it. And so I had to do that.
No.
And then, and then I realized I had paid, or I think I paid for hose clamps. They didn't put them in the bag or something. So
yeah,
I still had the old TBI 350 sitting there, and I was like looking around. I was like, that one will work. So it's got a 1988 hose clamp on it right now.
Awesome.
But no, I ran it up to temp. Oil pressure's good. Went and changed the oil while we were at it. Yeah, so that's really all I've been doing. I did do a little bit of a fun project. I recorded it so I could post it. I just haven't done it. Did a little budget subwoofer install in my 2014, and that was a lot of fun. It took me back to my Circuit City days.
I bet.
A couple of Rockford like R3 low power, just 10s, and a sealed box. Got them for $100 off Marketplace. I bought a Blaupunkt amp off Amazon for $60 whole, and
awesome.
And a little wiring kit. And I did spend on the LC1i line out converter, something that's actually powered and also have all that noise and stuff. Sounds great. I'm very happy with it. And then I finally got around to installing my trailer brakes on the 2014. Just little quality of life stuff I've been wanting to do.
Right.
But what about you?
I really got a lot going on. So I haven't got the Caprice back together yet, but I picked up my cylinder head for it the other day. It's back together. I've got a box with my trunnion bearings and head gaskets.
Those are important.
Yeah, the head gasket and bolts. And I just got to go pick up some fluids. I'm hoping, I was going to start working on it the other day, but it's just been so damn cold here. But I'm going to try to put it together this weekend. I'd like to have it running by next week. I mean, really, probably realistically, like 3 or 4 hours worth of work at the most. I do want to unhook the harness on that side of the motor and pull it up on top because I had some issues with the crank sensor. So I want to fix the wiring there that's probably baked.
Yeah, we were talking about that
Yeah.
before LS Fest, weren't
Yeah. And it's been okay, but now is the time to do it because the head's off, the header's off, and everything's right there. So I can just unplug everything. I've got to unplug it back to the back of the trans, but then there's a way I can like pull it up and lay it up on top of the engine. So that way I don't have to lay under the car and do it. And I think that was part of the issue I had when I repaired it last time. It was tight quarters, kind of hard to get in there really well and tighten everything up.
Are you going to do the trunnions on the other side now, or are you going to wait for one of those to fail? And
Yeah, I'll just wait till one fails.
that's our typical MO, so that's fine.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go ahead and do them all. But I got that going on. We got the Volvo kind of fixed. The back glass broke in it a while ago. I ended up paying more money than I wanted to put a back glass in that thing. We broke the side glass, and I ended up finding a guy local, and I got a side glass and a regulator from him. My old regulator was bent, and it was making the glass bind up and ended up breaking it. So it's got a new side glass, new back glass, new regulator. I went and put power steering lines on it, and just one busted. And then either ripped or O-ring fell off when I put it in the rack and didn't know it. Got it all back together, and it's leaking worse than it was. But we know where the leak is, and it's in a spot that can just be but the problem is you got to like drop the downpipe out of the way. And so it's kind of a process. So I when I worked on it, I used David's lip, and I'm really thankful for that because it helped, but I got to go back into it for like a 3-cent O-ring, probably.
Yeah.
But
speaking of power steering, I sent you a thing on Facebook Marketplace
Yeah.
that I'm very intrigued by, and it was like an LS swap page. The guy it was out of a Volvo, I think.
Yeah, it was
a
like
Volvo or a
C30.
Volkswagen. Was it
a
C30?
Volvo.
Like some kind of electric power steering that you can pull. It's like right there in the fender well. I think you had to pull the headlight and one other thing, and you can get it out of there, and you just splice it into power and hook your lines up to it, and you've got power steering without having to have a pulley. And I mean, I'm sure it doesn't rob a lot of power, right? But it's still an interesting and simpler concept.
Right.
I'm pretty intrigued, really.
I'm curious. I was thinking about that. I'm curious if that would work if you would have to have a rack, or if it could work with like a gearbox like we have on our 3rd gen.
Well, it looked like it had an inlet and outlet like hose and still had fluid. It's just all self-contained with the reservoir. So I would think you would just hook your lines to that.
Right. But I don't know. I mean,
can it provide enough pressure, I guess? I don't know.
Well, no, I'm a little ignorant on it. I don't know if it would be too much or not enough pressure for like the old school gearbox like we have in our 3rd gens. I don't know what kind of pressure they're supposed to run under, and I don't know what type of. I mean, I like the idea a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's something I intend to look into between now and probably the next time we do this. It's anything to simplify it and then clean up under the engine bay, because you could hide that like under the battery tray or in front of the radiator on a 3rd gen. In that big open empty space. And really clean your engine bay up. And I've really been thinking about that a lot lately. Is I look at so many really clean engine bays where you don't see the harness, all the wires are tucked. And I know none of that's like super important to racing. And honestly, you want serviceability when you're racing and doing stuff. But I love the way a really, really clean engine bay looks. And so
I do too.
I've really been.
Mine never are.
Yeah, and mine isn't. But I keep thinking like, oh, I could move my coolant reservoir in front of the radiator up there and put the trans cooler up there and get a little more space. And I don't know. It's just something that, I'm interested in. We'll look into it some more. If anybody knows about it, definitely put in the comments, because that's a pretty, I'm curious. Interesting idea.
I've thought about trying to find one just to try it out. David and I were working on this LS Swap Crown Vic recently, and
I remember
he was having, well, I was with him the other day again too, and we did a little bit we drove around and did some drivability tuning on it, because it was shifting a little hard and it was a little rich. You could smell quite a bit of fuel. So he had some issues with the regulator, and also he fixed that. So then we were just trying to dial it back in. We might have revisited it again, but the power steering pump's starting to fail in that. And so I sent him the video, and I thought that would be kind of a cool option. And I would think it would work pretty well with that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. If you do it, I'd be interested. Definitely get some videos because that's pretty. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that's you're talking about the smell and the fuel, right? Like I know my car is a little rich. Last time I took it out, having just went to the fast 102 intake and the new throttle body. I did add, I think 5% fuel across the board, made it pass. I ended up pulling it back out. But one thing about my car, literally since it's been swapped, but especially now, like if you drive it, like the gas smell and like when you get out of it,
Hmm.
it's strong. And like
Yeah,
I'll smell that way for an hour or
yeah.
more.
So my Trans Am's the same way.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's just, where you've got the gas tank vent, that just goes under the
Right.
car and how much of it's that, I
Maybe it's
started
just
worrying, I
we
was like,
can't.
damn, if I
Maybe
got a
it's just
leak
we're
somewhere.
retarded and we can't build cars.
Well, had anybody listened to this podcast? Like I'm dumb and can't build cars. Like that is a common thing.
Yeah, my Caprice. I don't really notice it in my Caprice, and neither my Suburban. My Trans Am. I don't. Maybe it's just the engine. Maybe the tune's a little off. I mean, I'm sure it is, but because plus I've had that car swapped for so long that motor's tired. So it's tired.
Well, when I was in LS Fest, I don't know if I mentioned it, I bought a set of 243 heads
Yeah.
for my 6.0 that's in there. I've got a set that are cleaned up and worked, but they're on the 5.3 for the OBS, which I got to get back on that once I get all this stuff with dad and mom out of the way. But I got a set of 243s. I plan to take to the machine shop, and eventually, if anything ever happens, or I just feel like, all right, the 6.0 is ready for a real refresh because the cam and all that stuff's new, then I would just get a set of lifters and go ahead and have the heads cleaned up and have some 243 heads on there. I think that'd be that's just
Yeah.
probably my
Yeah.
next step. But I
Yeah.
need a rear end. The little 9
Yeah.
volts just
Yeah.
not going to last
I
forever.
still need one too. I was planning on doing more to start this winter working on my Trans Am, and then Caprice shit the bed. So here we are. But then, I've been so busy traveling for work, and, that kind of brings me into the next little thing. I mean, I think we'll try to finish off with this as, you changed jobs and I changed jobs there in the fall. And for me, it was a big change as far as the type of work that I was doing and the atmosphere. And so I went from, it was a manufacturing job, but I went to a more of an office job. I'd say it's mostly an office job. But at least right now. So I don't know. I mean, it was a really different atmosphere. It's taken me a little bit to get used to. The first couple weeks I was there, and I'm like, what's going on here? It's like, I'm watching The Office or Parks and Rec. And I'm like,
You'll appreciate The Office more in a year or so when you go back and watch it
yeah,
again.
yeah. So that's another thing. I've never watched it like
But you
fully.
gotta. It's my
Well,
favorite.
so it was a couple years ago I tried to watch, and I watched like the first couple episodes, and I was ADHD and I couldn't get into it. So I started watching it again like the last week or so, and I'm like halfway through the second season now. And definitely the first season was kind of like, I figured it was like
It's rocky.
like Parks and Rec, the first season or two, I struggled with. But then once I got past those, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured that's kind of how this is. And I kind of like it that it's like, 20, 30 minutes. And I'm just like, I'll be watching like, damn, that was it. Episode's over. But I'm like, it's nice because I don't sit there and just get sucked into watching like these hour-long episodes. Or if I get tired, I want to stop it. But no, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm about halfway through the second season and I like it.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, it's literally one of my all-time favorite shows. We watch it just about every night when we just don't know what else to turn on. That's just our
Yeah.
default.
But
No, I know you got to go here in a minute.
Yeah.
We can talk more about work probably in the next episode because that's a common theme for me. I'm still managing, an IT team, but I'm managing a very highly skilled professional services team that does a lot of, very very interesting, very cool work. The organization functions very much like a tech startup, so we're
Mhm.
moving fast. We're doing lots of things. And it's very exciting work. I'm working more than I was 6 months ago when we were more consistent on the podcast, but I am happier than I have been with work in probably a very long time. I love the organization. I love my team. My bosses are great. Like it's been a good change of pace. I mean, I've been there now, almost 3 months, still getting, up to speed on a lot of things, but it's been great, man. And I can't I can't say that there's never a day where I get done with work and I'm like, man, I'm exhausted mentally. I'm just like tired. I don't want to go think about anything, but I don't dread getting up and going to work anymore. And yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully it'll stay that way. There'll be days, but
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that's kind of how I am now. I mean, I really needed to change, for a lot of reasons. And so I still am learning a lot with this. And, there's some things about it that's not perfect. Like, you know, sometimes I do struggle with the more just hanging out and sitting around the office. But once I get a little farther along, it'll be a little bit different for me. But I mean, the last month or so, I've really picked up and started actually doing more rather than just training. And it's really helped a lot. And so like this last week, I've really hammered out a lot of stuff that I really haven't done the last several weeks. So that's definitely helping. And I like that. But yeah, I mean, I probably work half as much, maybe 2/3 as much as what I was working where I was at before. And it's just so much more laid back, kind of, left to do my thing. And, I don't mind it. And,
yeah, as I say, enjoy it. I mean, because there may come a time when you're crazy, wide open, busy, and then
right.
but when you get those lulls, I mean, enjoy
Yeah.
them, and just do what you got to do, and then have that
Well,
mental capacity and time for the family. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, that, and, I definitely want to look into maybe taking some other classes or something for myself. And also working on building more of this. But now
yeah,
I have I don't know exactly if I'm going to stay in my position forever, but I'd like to look more into options within the organization and go from there. But I definitely want to hang out where I am for a while and get a good feel for things before I make any more changes. But so far, I'm digging it.
yep, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear you deserve it. I mean, we all work hard, and we all deserve at least have a job. Like work's work. If it wasn't, if it didn't suck, sometimes they wouldn't have to pay us to be there.
Right.
At the end of the day, you still deserve to have something that doesn't make you,
Yeah.
just
Which
frustrated and
I've got,
miserable.
and as you guys know, I've been to Chicago a few times for it already, and I think I went in December. That was a rough trip for me mentally. I struggled with having to go, and I think it was because it was so soon, right after switching, and I was still
Holidays
trying
too.
the holidays, and then like when I switched, it was like a few weeks of out of work without pay, just because of the way everything worked out, and so I was stressing with the holidays, and then being out of town, but I ended up meeting some good people the later part of that week, and it helped out the rest of the time I was there. And then I went again like 2 weeks ago, and I was there for a week and a half, and I met a group of people there, and we had a blast.
That's
And I
awesome.
learned a lot while we were there. We had a good time. And so I'm supposed to go back in a week and a half, I believe, 2 weeks. And I'll be there 2 weeks this time. And we're going to try to go see the Gabriel and Glacier show the weekend while we're there. Fluffy.
So we're gonna get Steve on the podcast live with you
That'd be all
while
right.
you're in Chicago.
That'd
Gotta
be
make
all
it
right.
happen. Steve, make it happen.
Yeah. 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 I think they should do that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
get
know we're
Steve
going
and
to,
Bill. Y'all all get together and
yeah,
get
go over there and go see uh, maybe one of the bird or the Camaro.
go check out the pro mods they got going on over
Oh,
there.
yeah, pro mods over there.
All
All
right, well, you
righty.
got to go get your kid, man. We're gonna wrap that up here, guys. We're at almost 40 minutes like we normally do, so I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna be sticking to it. It may be a every other week release, at least initially. We don't know
All right.
yet. We're figuring out our schedules with the new jobs, but we're gonna make it happen. And yeah, I'm glad we got to get back on it, and we'll
Yeah, yeah.
see you guys in the next one.
All righty.
All right, have a good evening, folks.
See ya.